Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online build video with me, Sherman. Today guys, we're taking a look at the Storm Lord, which is a solo build for the Scalebreaker DLC. And the thing is that it is a really good build for soloing, and I don't want to say in-game content, but for soloing base game dungeons and even the DLC dungeons on normal. It's really good for doing that. It's a little difficult to solo DLC dungeons on veteran anyways with any build, but if you're a good enough player, I'm pretty sure you could probably even do it with this. So this build does have two setups. It has one with pets and one without pets. I prefer to run it without pets because it just works so much better without. And I know it's going to sound confusing to some people, but it does. I don't know why, it just does. So let's get in and take a look at the build itself, starting with this right here. So I chose Argonian for this because of their 6% healing done. It really plays well with the Sorcerer and its capabilities to self-survivability. They're really good at that, and the fact that you can play Magicka with them also plays really well into the structure and playstyle of the build. As you can see, we have 64 points into Magicka for it, 33k Magicka, 21k max health, 17k max stamina, 1,176 mag recovery. You can get more mag recovery depending on which Mundus stone you're using and stuff, and a few other things, but it's pretty good just like it is. We do have an 891 stam recovery, and that's because of the monster set we're using. We do have 2279 spell damage with a 55% spell critical, 16,000 spell resist, almost 16k physical resist. We are using the Thief Mundus for the enhanced crit capability. And then we are using the Tri-Stat food. Sorry, I'm a little out of it this morning, guys. Allergy meds, everything just weighing on me a little bit. Alright, moving on to the gear and equipment. Starting with the potions, we do use tripods. Not all the time, but a lot of the time because they work so well. We will be using tripods, or we will be using spell power pots. Now, because the way this build is set up, spell power pots do work better, and with being an Argonian, you do get the, Magicka stamina and health back, along with Magicka. So you get a lot more Magicka back than you do anything else. It works out really well with the race and the potion use, so that's kind of good. And let's go ahead and go over the sets now that we're using. The first one being our monster set. Now, there is two options for the monster set. I tried several different iterations of this build. I tried it with Alumbris, which works out really well. I tried it with Ice Hearts, which pretty much is the best choice. And then there's Stormfist, which is the second best choice. So, Alumbris is good, but since it's so static, and you can wind up hitting targets right away with it, and if they move out of it, it's kind of like you wasted it. So I like Stormfist because even if they move out of it, you can hit them again later on with it, and it goes off pretty quickly. So the nice thing about Stormfist is when you deal damage, you have a 10% chance to create a Thunder Fist to crush your enemies, dealing X amount of shock damage every second for 3 seconds, and then to all enemies in a 4-meter radius, and then the final hit crushes them when the fist closes, doing physical damage. So it does both magic and physical, which is nice because this set plays really well into the Sorcerer anyways. So moving on to the main 5-piece set we are running Julianus, and this is a light armor setup, guys. So we are wearing 5 pieces of light armor, 1 heavy, 1 medium. We're using a heavy chest, medium legs, everything else is light. With the Julianus set, though, you can see the 2-piece gives you spell crit, 3-piece max Magicka, 4-piece spell crit, and then the 5-piece adds more spell damage. Now this combination works out really good in combination with other things. So we're going to get to that other thing here in a second when we get down to the jewelry and weapons. But I want to reiterate some things here so people understand. You can make this build either in heavy armor or light armor. It's up to you. If you do it in heavy armor, your recovery rate's going to be a little bit lower on the magicka side, but it's going to be better survivability. And then when doing it with light armor, you're sacrificing survivability for increased damage capability. So you got to make that choice of, do I want that easier to reach survivability level, or do I want something else? Now this is where the other set comes into play really well, and that's because it works with both heavy and light armor, and that is Thunderbugs. Thunderbugs is a great set for solo play. Doesn't matter what you're playing. If you make a solo build, it is a great set for it. The reason why the 2 and 3 piece add physical and spell resist, the 4 piece adds spell damage, which plays well into somebody using more like a staff build, or somebody playing more magicka based. It does play well into that. It also works really well with hybrid type builds. But the 5 piece, when you take physical damage, you have a 50% chance to deal X amount of shock damage in a 5-meter radius around you. This effect can occur once every 3 seconds. This thing pretty much will be firing every 3 seconds, depending on the dungeon you are in. So this helps with soloing really well, because it gives you a nice extra AoE that goes off a lot. So as long as you have physical type damage being done to you, you will have a lot of AoEs going off besides the ones that you cast. So this works really well. So going over the traits real quick and enchants on the gear, the helm and legs are invigorating. And the reason we go invigorating is just to give us a little bit more oomph to our recovery rates, primarily in the magicka side. Having it in a stamina helps as well, because we are using the Storm Fist, which also the 1 piece gives stamina recovery, which plays well into our character because we do a lot of dodge rolling and blocking, so we want to be able to get those resources back for that, and this is how we're going to do it, is we're going to use just basic stamina recovery. It's low, but it works well. Moving on to the smaller pieces, we are using all divines in the shoulder, the gloves, the belt, and the boots. And that's to give us higher Mundus Stone effect. And in those small pieces, we are using Max Magicka enchants. And the big pieces, the helm, the chest, and the legs, we are using Tri-Stat enchants. And that's to give us more overall stats with Magicka, health, and stamina. That allows us really good versatility with our resources, so we can play better into our magicka type, but we can also use the elements of stamina for blocking, dodge rolling, and everything else. As you can see, 17k stamina is more than enough to do that stuff. So it works out really well with that. Now the chest piece we are using is reinforced, and that's because it's a heavy piece of armor, and the chest will give you the most amount of resistances no matter what you're using. As long as your chest is heavy, you can always build it for reinforced, so you can get like I said, the maximum amount of resistances. And the way this build plays is it's very tanky, but it's very damaging too. So it's kind of got a mix of survivability, damage, survivability, self-sustainability, all in one. Because when you make a solo build, you have to be self-sustained. So, alright, going over the jewelry now, starting with the rings. We have 2 Tri-Rune rings here on Thunderbugs. Now you do have to transmute these to get Tri-Rune. If you cannot get the Tri-Rune, don't stress it. Leave them as is with the health in there, because the health will actually help. And it'll put you at about a 23k health. You will lose some, or gain some health, but you lose some Max Magicka. Kind of sucks, I know, but don't stress it. It still works out in the end. So, but we do put 2 spell damage enchants in here, and this is to maximize our spell damage capabilities. And then the third piece is going to be an infused necklace with a magic recovery. And again, you do have to transmute this to get this in infused. If you can't get it infused, just put a magic recovery enchant on this, or do a spell damage here and do 2 recoveries here. Either way, you can get away with a little bit of that with this build, because you get an extra 129 spell damage from here, and Julianus gives you 299. So you can sacrifice one of these for an extra recovery if you need to. That's the kind of nice benefit. So, alright, moving on to the weapons, starting with the main bar. And on the main bar, we are using a Nirnhoned Lightning Staff. Now, the reason we're using a Lightning Staff and not a Fire Lightning combo, like you see a lot of people running, is because Sorc gets 5% increase to all lightning damage. So taking advantage of their benefit towards lightning really plays well into the solo aspects, because you can boost that lightning capability no matter what bar you're on. So it adds to your playability, but it also adds to your damage output and survivability as well when it comes to certain things. So the Nirnhoned is going to increase the damage of this weapon to 1535. And then it's going to also, we're going to use an Absorb Magic enchant here. And this is going to deal some magic damage. It's going to restore extra magicka to us every 5 seconds. So every 5 seconds we're going to get 354 magicka back, which is really good. On the back bar, we are using an infused lightning staff with a weapon damage enchant. This will restore not restore magic. This will increase your weapon and damage enchant power. The infused trait will, and so it gives you a lot more weapon and spell damage advantage from it. So the more you keep this applied, the more weapon and spell damage you'll get, of course. So that's why we use infused with a little lower cooldown, so it'll stay applied more consistently. Alright, now that we've seen that, let's go ahead and move on to skills. And going through the skills, starting with the class skills, I do unlock all the abilities, ultimate, active abilities, and passives. And you're going to do this with everything here. And the reason you're going to do that for the class, primarily, is so you can take advantage of utilizing all the class skills. Like I said, this one can use pets, along with... Sorry, I thought I was going to have to kill my fan. It's starting to die. I've had this fan for like 3 years, so... But the reason I do unlock all the skills and abilities so I can take advantage of them in different situations, because I'm not going to play with the same build solo all the time. I'm going to switch up abilities and tools depending on the way I play. So if I play 1 bar build, it's going to be different from when I play 2 bars, or when I play different things. In fact, when I play 1 bar, I pretty much just use what's on the back bar, because I don't need anything else. So... I do a lot of heavy attacks with it, everything like that. I can usually pull about 17k, which isn't much, but it's a lot better than nothing at all. So this does a lot of AoE, splash damage, things like that on the back bar, and we also get that weapon enchant, so it's really nice. Alright, when it comes to weapons, I do use primarily the Destruction Staff, so I do unlock the ultimate active abilities and passives. If I need to heal, I will use a Restoration Staff, and if I do that, I will unlock the ultimate active abilities and passives here as well. But I don't really need one. I've learned to play really well without needing the extra survivability, so I don't use it. Moving on to armor, light armor. Take all the passive abilities and the active ability, because the active ability is going to play well into this when it comes to solo play. Medium armor, the top 2, the bottom 1, and then with heavy armor, we're going to take the top 3. Now, when it comes to light armor, active ability, you can use any one you want. I like Harness Magicka because it gives me Magicka back whenever I take damage. So, or while the shield absorbs damage, it gives you magic back. So that's kind of a nice trade-off. Alright, moving on to soul magic. You don't have to take the ultimate active abilities in the first passive if you don't want to. I do, because those work to my advantage in solo play, and also sometimes even in group play I can take advantage of some of these abilities. I always take soul summons and soul lock. Moving on to guild skills, Fighter's Guild, ultimate active abilities and passives. Again, I take these for certain reasons. I use Barb Trap if I'm playing by myself. It does do a decent amount of damage. I will use Evil Hunter sometimes, primarily to give me higher weapon damage capabilities. So if I'm using a lot of stamina heals and stuff, I get a higher crit capability. And I will be sacrificing some magic crit, so... And then Dawnbreaker Smiting is really good for like PvP play, things like that. Mage's Guild, unlock the ultimate active abilities and passives, again, primarily for different uses, again, always different uses. Psijic Order, I do the same thing, ultimate active abilities, passives, so I can use some of these abilities in different situations. Undaunted, again, same thing, unlock all the active abilities and the passives. Undaunted passives are going to be really good, and the way you get these is by playing dungeons through the stories or doing the Undaunted dailies. And then just playing through dungeons regularly, you get points for it. Alright, Assault, ultimate active abilities, same thing with support. I take the ultimate active abilities, and I do take a one passive here. When it comes to racials, we are an Argonian, and all this stuff plays really well into solo play. So Life Mender, increase your healing done, really good for solo play. Argonian Resilience is pretty decent and gives you that max health, disease resistance, and immunity. The Resourcefulness is the really good one, because it gives you increased max magic by 1,000, but when you drink a potion, restore 4,000 health, magic, and stamina. So between the Argonian's health increase and its magicka increase, this is what makes them really good magic type characters, but also decent healers. And then the Resourcefulness plays really well with potions of any kind, so it doesn't matter what potions you're using, you're always getting health, magic, and stamina back, along with the other resources that the potion gives you. So, alright, crafting, alchemy, medicinal use, very important to get. You know, you're not going to get this right away. It's going to take you some time, but it's when using a potion, resulting effects last 30% longer. And then provisioning, same thing. Gourmand and Connoisseur. Both of these are very good because they increase the duration of your food by 20 minutes. And your drinks. Now, we use primarily Tri-Stat food to give us all three resources. So getting an extra 20 minutes added to 2 hours is really nice. And then we use potions, we use like Witchmother's Potent Brew as a drink, and that lasts 2 hours as well, so it's 2 hours and 20 minutes with it as well. So either one of these is really good. Going over our skills on our bar, starting with our first ability. Now, this is an optional setup, guys. You can change this setup around. Like I said, you can incorporate pets and stuff into it, which is really nice. But the way I like to run it is, when I solo play, is I like to run it more as a AoE single target type DPS thing. So on the front bar, I use Crushing Shock. This does a lot of damage. It can also interrupt enemies that are casting, and it doesn't matter if they're casting a magic ability or a stamina ability. As long as they're using an ability, you can stun them and interrupt them, which is really good, and you can also set them off balance. Next ability we have is called Shock Reach. This does a decent amount of damage up front and a large amount of damage over 10 seconds, which is really good. Nice dot potential here. So our next ability is our Execute, and this is called Mage's Wrath. This does shock damage to a target, and it will deal, if the enemy drops below 20% more health, it'll deal a large amount of shock damage, and then it'll deal X amount of shock damage to nearby targets, which is really good. The next thing we have here is our shield, and you can use either one here. You can use Hardest Magic, or you can even use the class's own shield, the Hardened Ward. Both are really good. This one is 12,000 in strength, and it's a little bit bigger because of our CP. And then this is also 10,000, and it's a tiny, tiny bit bigger than what it says there because of our CP. But it's a really good way to get a shield on your character. And anytime, like I said, that you absorb damage on the shield, you restore X amount of magicka, and each piece of magicka worn increases the amount of magicka restored by 33%, and the effect can occur up to 3 times. So this can absorb 3 amounts of 3 attacks, giving you magicka back. So it's kind of nice. Next ability we have is called Inner Light. Now this we primarily use because it gives us an increased max magicka of 5%. But because we have all the passives for the Mages Guild, we also get an extra 2%. So we actually get 7% increase of max magicka, and we get the spell critical rating. Now you can switch this out also with Bound Aegis. This gives you 8% max magicka. It will also increase your spell damage capability on both bars because of another passive in the Storm Calling line called, I think it's Energized. Yeah, our Capacitor increases, sorry, not that, Expert Mage. Increases your weapon and spell damage by 2% for each sorcerer ability slotted. Right now we have 4%. We could boost up even more by equipping Bound Aegis, but we will be using potions no matter what. So your choice here on what you want to use. This is going to give you a little bit more magicka over what you had, but it's also going to drop your spell critical a little bit. But it also boosts your spell damage. So not much in the magicka difference, like I said, between the two. So I prefer to use Inner Light. And that's primarily because it does give us that spell damage increase. Now, this is also an optional floater space, and I use Energy Overload. I primarily use this for like when I'm fighting trash mobs or things like that, and I need, you know, I just need something that's going to kill them really fast. So light attacks do X amount of damage, and they can fire up to 28 meters. Heavy attacks deal a lot of damage over a certain amount of time. So this is really good. And then attacks deplete ultimate until you run out, or the ability is toggled off. So you can toggle this on or off, and you can leave it on while you're running around. So each attack also restores magicka, so light or heavy. Moving on now to the back bar, we have our first ability, which is Lightning Flood. Sorry. Now Lightning Flood does X amount of shock damage to all enemies in the area. Now this is a 6-meter radius, and it only lasts for 8 seconds. So you kind of got to make sure you keep this up quite a bit. Now it is also a synergy when you're playing in groups. This build isn't just made for solo play. It can also work in groups, which is really nice. And then the best thing about this ability is it's got a good range of area of effect. So I'm going to show you guys the range of the area of effect so you guys can see for yourself. So if you're in a hallway or something in a dungeon, you can set it right outside the hallway, and then you can just drop your Wall of Elements and pull the enemies into this, and this is just going to melt them. So really good combination there. Alright, next ability, of course, is our Wall of Elements, or in this case, Blockade of Storms. This does shock damage to all enemies in the target area every second, and it can set concussed enemies off balance, so you can have a more consistent uptime of off balance with this. This is really good with dealing a lot of damage. And this lasts for 12 seconds. The next ability we have is Critical Surge. Now, people are going to ask why I'm not using Power Surge. Power Surge is now a heal over time, or an area effect heal, whenever you critically heal somebody. This one, while active, and we're not worried about the major brutality, we're worried about survivability. While active, dealing a critical strike heals you for X amount of health. This effect can occur once every second. So no matter what, you're going to be getting health back. And with being an Argonian, getting all this extra healing done, you're going to be able to heal yourself really well. So that's why we primarily use this. This is just a self-survivability skill. Next ability we have is Boundless Storm. Now this is really good because this does an AoE around us, dealing shock damage every second for 23 seconds. And then on top of that, you get your Major Ward and Major Resolve, increasing physical and spell resist by 5,280. And when you activate it, you gain Major Expedition, increasing your movement speed by 30% for 4 seconds. It's a nice way to like get into a fight. So if there's like a group of mobs in a dungeon that you're trying to clear, you can activate this and get into them really fast, so you can get into a good position on those mobs so you can AoE them down, which is pretty much how this build works. Lots of AoEs. Next ability we have is Inner Light again for the Max Magicka and the Major Prophecy, primarily the Max Magicka. The last ability we have on our bar is Greater Storm Atronach. Now this is a great ability. As soon as you summon this thing falls to the ground, starts putting itself together and forming, and when it does shock damage to all enemies in a 6-meter radius and stuns them for 3 seconds. The Atronach will zap the closest enemy, dealing X amount of shock damage every second, and then nearby allies can activate the Charged Lightning synergy, granting an ally and the Atronach Major Berserk, increasing their damage done by 25% for 8 seconds. And that's our skills. Now we're going to go over our champion points, starting with the red tree. 56 in the Ironclad, reducing damage taken from direct damage attacks by 20%. We do have 10 in the Spell Shield, increasing your spell resistance by 1,003. Over here we have 28 in the Light Armor Focus. This increases your physical resistance by 2542. This really plays well with that Thunderbugs, so it's another reason why we use it. Then we have 31 in the Thick Skin, increasing your damage or reducing your damage taken from damage over time effects by 13%. And we have 43 in the Hardy, reducing your physical, poison, disease damage by 10%. 43 in Elemental Defender, reducing flame, frost, shock, and magic damage by 10%. Moving on, we have 40 in the Bastion. This increases the effectiveness of your damage shields by 16%. We have 19 in the Quick Recovery, increasing healing received by 5%. This plays really well into the survivability and everything of the build. And Bastion's really good if you're using like Ice Heart. So that's the other reason why we put in here, is because if we do use the Ice Heart monster set instead of Storm Fist, we get a much better shield from Ice Heart. Moving on, we have 40 in the Warlord, reducing break free cost by 16%. We do have 16 in the Sprinter, reducing your cost to sprint by 10%. 16 into Bashing Focus, reducing your bash cost by 10%. And then moving on over here, we have 43 in a Mooncalf. This increases stam recovery by 10%. I know a lot of people are going to ask, why didn't you put into Tenacity? So I'm going to be clear on this. When I make builds, I test a lot of different CP allocation setups. And Tenacity only provides me with a 10% increase to 30% return. That 10% from that 30%, with that 30% is 40%. That extra 10% only amounts to about 100 extra resources or 200 extra resources, depending on the amount of resources you get back from your heavy attack. So it's a lot easier or more efficient, I should say, to build into stamina recovery. So this way you can take advantage of your resource return for stamina when you block, dodge roll, and all that stuff. So that's why I do this. We do have 75 in Arcanus. This increases our mag recovery by 14%. And then moving on over here, we have 40 in the Tumbling, reducing your dodge roll cost by 16%. 40 in the Shadow Ward, reducing your block cost by 16%. And then moving on to the final trees, the blue tree, we have 43 in the Blessed, increasing your healing done by 10%. With being Argonian, we get another 6%. We actually get the best healing done out of any race. So it's really nice. Next, we have 56 in the Elfhorn. This increases your critical damage and healing with magic abilities by 20%. Really nice. And then we have Elemental Expert, increases your flame, frost, shock, and magic damage done by 12%. So remember, we get 6 or 5% increase to shock damage for being a Sorg. We have 17% shock damage because of this setup. Moving on to the middle tree, we have 35 in the Staff Expert. This increases your light and heavy attack damage done with Destruction and Resto Staffs by 20%. We have 40 in the Master at Arms, increasing your damage done with direct damage attacks by 16%. This is primarily for when you're using your light attack rotation. It'll boost that damage, not your heavy attack damage. Not on the rest of the Lightning Staff or Resto Staff. Thaumaturge, we have 40 points up into, and this is going to increase your damage done with damage over time effects by 16%. This is where you're going to get 16% more damage added to your heavy attacks from the Lightning Staff and Restoration Staff. And that's because heavy attacks from those are considered damage over time. Alright, now that we've done that, seen the CP and everything, I'm pretty sure you guys want to see what this thing looks like in action. So I'm going to take this to Fungal Grotto. And this is where I did a lot of my testing with this build to begin with. So we're going to recall to Fungal Grotto 1. And I'm just going to do a quick run to the first boss encounter in here. I'm probably going to die. I'm not going to lie here. I'll probably die. And that's because I'm just not super effective with this build as much as I'd like to be. So, it's a good build. It really is. It's just, you have to know how to play it. So now that we're in here, I'm going to go ahead and eat my food again. So I have a good amount of food active. Drop my potion. Oops. I didn't mean to do that. So there's the first group of trash, and I'm pretty sure I am in veteran. Yes, I am. So the thing you have to understand about solo playing is about being self-sufficient. It's about being self-reliant and not relying on other people and to be with you when you play this way. So you have to be able to do things on your own. And if you can't, you're gonna die. So that's why we do a lot of the, that's why you see a lot of, solo people. They will play a certain way. So it's primarily, again, offers just survivability. And that's your whole thing here. Is you've got to be able to survive. You've got to be able to deal damage. You've got to be able to sustain. And not really well, not like super sustainability, but enough to kind of keep you on the inside, you know. And what I mean by the inside, really good damage capabilities. So, yeah, you guys remember when I was talking about Thunderbug going off like crazy? Thunderbug has gone off so many times already. You'll see it. It's like a big AoE blast of lightning around me. And that's because I'm taking physical damage mostly. So that's why this works so well in some dungeons. Is you take a lot of physical damage, which plays high into your survivability and stuff. Alright, here we go. So this is the first boss encounter, and I can promise you, if you can solo this, you can solo the final boss, no problem, because this has a lot of trash and AoEs. Save your ultimate always for a boss encounter. The reason I say that is because you're going to want to kill things fast. So having that ability to do so is going to help you out in the long run. So, just saying. Fungal Grotto is also a really good one to practice on because it's one of the basic dungeons, and it's one of the first dungeons you'll do. So it's a good one to get used to running, because you'll run this a lot. At least I did for a while, until I got comfortable with solo play. Not because it's one of the easier dungeons. I found Vaults of Madness to be easier than running this on Veteran and on Normal. There is one problem with running Veteran with this on Vaults of Madness, and that is there is a boss with a one-shot mechanic. So there you guys go. You can see that I can do, like I said, I can solo this. It's not too hard. You just have to know how to play. So that is it, you guys, for the Storm Lord solo build, which is basically a Tesla tank, but made to be solo. And it's really powerful. It's really good. It does what it needs to do, and it gets you through the content. Even with 23 or 21k health, I can solo Veteran dungeons on the base game. Now this is, again, all the dungeons in the Dungeon Finder, like when you go in here and you do specific dungeons, it's everything from Fungal Grotto 1. Fungal Grotto 2 cannot be soloed, unfortunately. Spindle Clutch 1, Spindle Clutch 2, Banished Cells 1, Banished Cells 2, Darkshade Caverns 1. Darkshade Caverns 2 can be soloed, it's very difficult. Elden Hollow 1 and 2 can both be soloed. Wayrest Sewers 1 can be soloed, 2 can be soloed if you're skilled enough. Ark's Cranium is soloable. City of Ash 1 and 2 are both soloable. Crypt of Hearts 1 is soloable. Crypt of Hearts 2 is very difficult, almost impossible because of the final boss. Has a one-shot mechanic. So, Dire Frost Keep is soloable. You have to know a trick to get through it on solo and take out all the bosses. Tempest Island also soloable. Volunfell soloable, Blackheart Haven, Blessed Crucible, Selene's Wet, and Vaults of Madness. All of these are soloable. The only ones that aren't are Dire Frost Keep, Crypt of Hearts 2, and Fungal Grotto 2. Those can be two-manned or better done with 4 people. Now when it comes to like I said, the DLC dungeons, everything from Bloodroot Forge all the way down to White Gold Tower, all of these can be soloed in normal mode pretty easily if you know the dynamics of the dungeons and things like that. It takes a long time to master DLC dungeons in solo mode, unless you are a master solo player. But you can solo most of these, so... But that is pretty much it, like I said, for the Stormlord, guys. I hope you guys liked it. I hope you enjoyed seeing this build in action a little bit and how it plays. I do play something similar on live, but I kind of use a different setup. I use somebody else's setup personally because I find it works a little bit better for my capabilities. And I use Outcast's build from his Maelstrom Arena play. I use that for my solo play on live with my Sork, and I do it because it works out really well. It's just really powerful, and that's running that's running Plague Doctors, and I run Ice Hearts with it. So Plague Doctors, Ice Hearts, and the 5-piece set is it's not Mother's Sorrow. It's the one that gives you a lot of max magicka when you have a pet out, because I do use pets with it, and it's very powerful. It's a very, very powerful build, and this one is very powerful even with pets as well, because you will get increased max health and stuff like that, and it works out because you get a burst heal that you're going to be activating quite a bit. So really nice, and you're going to have a shield, and you're going to be using your own class shield, so it's going to be a little bit better than what you have. But that's pretty much it for the build, guys. I hope you guys liked the video. If you did, you guys know what's coming next. Go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys want to see more videos by me, you can subscribe. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and this guy might see you in game. Bye.